An important thing to remember is that the combination of energy and muscle tension serves to communicate the most important quality of your character: weight. So let's take the ball, the tail, the pendulum, and the spring, some of the most basic learning tools of animation, and some of the most obvious places to see the qualities of physical weight. If a ball is heavy, it has a more difficult time fighting the resistance of gravity. Therefore, it spends less time in the air and takes more time absorbing its own weight before it bounces back up and starts the cycle again. A much lighter ball has more freedom to fly, spends less time on the ground, and bounces back to the next cycle rather quickly. Or, a heavy ball, hit by a mallet, may take more time to accelerate, but also more time to be slowed down by friction and air resistance. A much lighter ball takes much less time for both. So, how long an object takes to accelerate, plus how long an object takes to come to a stop or change direction, can describe its weight. Or in our case, how long the energy or effort of the body takes to accelerate, plus how long the muscle tension or resistance takes to bring it to a stop, can describe its weight. In essence, our bodies behave like a hooked-together armature of balls, tails, and pendulums, and are held together and manipulated by an intricate set of springs, a very active and emotional set of springs called our muscles. If I were to pose and animate without paying attention to the actual construction and function of the body, I'd create something weird, unclear, and unsuccessful. But if I describe the behavior of these balls, tails, pendulums, and springs in a believable way, I'll be making huge strides towards creating a really impactful character performance. Now, let me just say that believable weight in your animation doesn't always mean creating realism. It can, but it doesn't have to. Believable weight creates more of a sense of, well, believability, one of the most important ingredients in connecting with your audience. As we continue on, I think she has control of this move where she becomes very, very dismissive of it. But the one moment, this collapse right here, it's again just a body language that helps complement the face's look of disgust. All right, so if I look at what's happening with her body, the S curve that's running through it starts right about here between her feet, goes up through and up through her head. So all I really want to do is increase that in this overshoot. Of course I want to go down, but I want this curve to go a little more that way and this curve to go a little more that way. So I end up with a slightly more exaggerated S curve than she had. And then I'll bounce back up. Oh, it's just sort of a springy sort of S curvy feeling. So I've gone down with it. And up, down, and up, down. I'm going to avoid translating right now. I think that I can create this all with rotations. So if this, I'm going to lean these shoulders a little bit that way. Going to put the head a little bit that way. I think I need to do a little more with the neck. I think I need to collapse this hip a little bit more. See if I can collapse that shoulder a little bit more. That means I can increase this a little bit more. That's kind of getting where I want to go. I think the neck is a little bit too exaggerated. Let me just do that in the curve editor and get it closer to, let's see, what is that? Rotate Z. Let's just bring that back down. Not quite so extreme. Just pushed it down and then increased the curvature of all of these rotational joints so that it gives the appearance that it is going to kind of bouncing on its own weight. Bounce, bounce, bounce. All right. So again, I feel like that piece of the action just it describes the how she is letting the weight of her body seem like it's out of control, and that will get that sense of the weight of just dealing with you that I have to endure. It's going to help sell that feeling. I don't think that's an incidental piece of mechanics. I do think that tells part of the story. I'm going to play the rest of this scene as if an external force is drawing her to seeing the rats in the cage. So I'm not going to go too crazy with weight-driven keys at this point. For now, I think between what I've just pushed and what I put in blocking, I have adequately told my character's story in how they carry themselves, and how they use the energy and how their body tries to stop it, and what they allow them, how out of control they allow themselves to be seen. All of that to me, I think, matters a lot. So I feel pretty good now to kind of jump into it and start defining my holds. So let's get cooking. Now I'm going to go in and start defining my holds. Holds are those moments of stillness, the momentary lack of movement that we use to let the audience absorb an important pose or facial expression. I like to use a hold to allow the audience time to stop and speculate on what a character is thinking, maybe make a judgment about them, or even be able to predict what they're going to do next. A hold can last many seconds or just a few frames, and it can contribute a lot to the overall rhythm of the shot, helping to hold the audience's interest and to guide their thoughts and emotions through the shot. A hold can create breathtaking drama, spine-tingling fear, or deliver a snappy punchline. And holds can help avoid that floaty feeling that can sometimes come from too much continuous movement. An often overlooked feature of a hold is that it usually has a goal, meaning it doesn't just stay perfectly still. Usually a hold is a barely visible slow in or slow out, or a combination of both. Sometimes it can be just ambient motion, but generally it tends to intensify or relax a bit over its full duration. And yeah, sometimes a stylized hold can be 100% static, and that can be pretty funny. But typically, in CG at least, you want to allow a hold to have a bit of life while it's going on. Whatever the case, it's best to make sure that the endpoints of your held pose aren't exactly the same, and then try not to float while that's happening. See? That's not hard at all. Alright, so this next part is relatively straightforward. We're going to find these moments that the character wants to really emphasize something to who she's speaking to, which is her little brother at this point. Those moments where she stops and she wants him to look at her. She wants this pose to be seen. Not only do I want the pose to be read to the audience, but I want to convey the fact that she actually is trying to be read. You know, she wants this body pose to be very clear to who she's speaking to. She wants her little brother to actually acknowledge her. She's trying to break his attention away from what he's looking at and look at her, and then she can be all snotty to him. So so if we go through what's going on here, we can basically see why she holds and why I've decided to make her hold. She opens up with this, with what is a small hold, just establishing the scene, establishing them both looking at the rats. Then she goes to this more important moment where she looks at her little brother in disgust. And if I scale in here, you'll notice I've got a considerable amount of frames. It's not huge, but it's enough. It's 10 frames that I want this to basically be held and be read. It'll probably be more like 8 because I'll give a couple of frames to transition. And when she ends that, she goes to the overshoot and recovers. That is a really long hold too. What I want that to look like is that she strikes this pose and is pretty much just saying, "Look at me, stupid, look at me, look at me, look at me," is kind of what I want that to communicate. So she's going to hang on to that for as long as she can. And then she switches her attention to be like, okay, if he's not looking at me, I'm going to look at what he's looking at. So she does. She looks at the rats. So I want to hold that as the pivotal hold for me, because this is where she is going to make a decision about how to continue. Is she going to give in yet, or is she going to get more mad? And during this hold, she is going to get more mad.